brother.
So good, so good. All right, mate. So we are live in here. As you guys are coming in, make sure you say hello in the comments. We're going to be bringing in a guest to this episode very freaking soon. Uh, Podcast starting in 2 minutes, guys. We're live across all the different channels, the YouTubes, the LinkedIns, the Facebook. I don't even know. I've lost track of where we're going here. Good morning, everyone. How are ya? Lovely to have your company in here. Hello, Sammy. How are you, mate? I hope you're good. Nicky, friend, what's going on, mate? Good morning. I hope you're well, brother. Powering off to a beautiful finish to the week. Good morning, Tez. I hope you've had a great start to your morning, brother. Kenny's in here as well. Hello, Kenny, all the way from the UK, mate. I hope I'm heading back to Canada on Sunday, so I hope, like you, uh, heading back to the cold's not going to kill me. Hello, Claire. Good morning. I hope you've had a beautiful start to or rather, evening to you. Hello, Jules. Good morning, Barley. Yep, it's 3:30 here in the morning, Jules, and I'm ready to rock and roll. I've still got those like scrunchy eyeballs that aren't really working properly, but that's all good. Look at this. We've got 15 guys in here already. Hello, Sean. How are you, mate? Good morning, guys. We're going to start this episode in just under a minute. Hello, Ash. How are you, hun? Lovely to have your company in here as well. I've got a guest sitting in the green room. What's up, brother? Good morning, M. Kelly. I think you're going to be pretty inspired by this chat, Em. I've got a guest in the green room that I'm going to introduce in just a moment, guys, and we're going to have some fun. We're going to talk about some kind of really important stuff today. Passion, purpose, authenticity. This is going to hit. So get ready. Ask any questions that you want to ask into the comments. Now, just for reference, guys, what we're going to do, as we have been doing, is do the podcast episode, and then at the end of the podcast, if you would like to stick around, ask any questions, then let's do so at the end, and I can obviously bring Tones in and you can get some expert advice off not just myself, but someone that's very well qualified to answer. So on that note, I'm bringing in my main man. Hello, Tones. Good morning. How are you, brother? Good?
Morning, Jace. Morning, everyone.
All right, so I think we're ready to rock and roll with the episode, guys. Let's do this on the count of 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Welcome back to the Better Body Academy podcast. This is the podcast that you come to when you're sick of the dumb diets and unsustainable workout programs. Happy Friday to all the Aussies. Happy finish to the Thursday for you guys on the other side of the world. Today, we've got a special guest joining the podcast. At the end of the podcast, we're going to stick around for some Q&A for anyone that wants to do this. Now, I met this young bloke in Noosa in Queensland probably just a month ago. His beautiful little daughter was kind of playing on the slide next to our daughter in the playground. She tried to like choke her out a little bit, and the kids had an affinity, and we just started chatting. And just while we were watching on with our kids, our conversation, just like meeting a stranger, was like super easy. And we started to ask each other what we did. We had, interest in knowing more about each other. And then I'm going to let this guy tell you a little bit about his story. But what you should know at the start is straight up front, this guy's an Order of Australia medal winner, acknowledged for a decade of service to the disabled community. He's also a fucking beast when it comes to some like pretty impressive athletic feats, and I'm going to let him talk about them. And most importantly, he's a husband of a wife and two kids. Let me introduce Mr. Tony Burns. Hello, Tones. How are you? Good morning,
Morning,
buddy.
Jace. Morning, Jace. Good to see you, man. And morning to everyone online. It's fantastic to be here.
Lovely. Thanks for coming in. By the way, it's 5:30 a.m. in Brisbane, guys. 3:30 a.m. in Bali. So this is what you've got to do if you want to get ahead. Tones, let's go from the top. Mate, we are, like we both like to talk a lot, right? So we're
Yeah.
going to keep this down to about 30, 40 minutes. I want to ask you a bunch of questions to kind of steer the chat. But firstly, can you tell us actually what the Order of Australia Medal is? Because, like, I just know it's a really big deal, but I don't really know exactly what it entails.
Sure. So, Jace, Look, it's an amazing, accomplishment, I guess, in the sense of the people that get these kind of medals. You don't go out to do it for that reason.
Mm,
There's a massive, I guess, process to go through to get nominated. So the Order of Australia, there's a few different levels, and the Order of Australia is for distinguished services to an industry. And
right.
so, just to put some context into it, someone nominated me for my efforts that I've been doing, as you said, for many years, for a service that's very passionate to me.
Mm,
And yeah, luckily enough, after 3 years of going through a process, it goes all the way up to the Order of Australia, which is going through basically from the Queen, and then from there it goes through a process of going through a very detailed nomination process, and then a review process, and then if you're lucky enough, you get a call up to go and get a medal. And yeah, it was very special, mate. It was one of those things and moments in life where I had my mum up there in Darwin at the administration house,
mm,
and to be around some amazing people, and I guess to have that moment in time was pretty special.
mm. I would say that I can imagine, but I can't imagine. And dude, that's like congratulations. Audience, for a bit of background, how old are you? Where are you based? And what do you do now for your sort of day job, so to speak?
Yeah, sure. So I am 45 years young, and some days I feel that age. Sometimes I feel 18. My dad always taught me that life is about a choice every day. I feel very passionate and blessed to do what I do on a daily basis. On my day-to-day job, I work for an amazing organisation called Multicap, and that is an organisation that inspires and empowers people with special needs and disabilities. And then on my offshoot, I've got a company which is called Dream, Believe, Achieve, which is a motivation company that inspires and empowers people with passion and purpose.
Mm,
Yeah, very driven, mate. I think life is about moments in time, and I think when I met you a month ago, I was privileged to bump into you that day. And to be able to go to work and be passionate, and I was very inspired by your story and to see what you're doing with the podcast and inspiring people every day. So I think we've got some synergies in that space. But for me to be able to go to work and inspire some incredible people to make their life a better life
mm.
is something that I'm blessed every day.
Dude, so good. Now, your biggest claim to fame, however, is nothing to do with that, right? It involves like a former Australian tennis champion. What were you telling me that you did?
So my dream was to become number one in the world for tennis. So when I was 7 years old, my mum took me down to Coolum Beach, and I got a racket and started playing, and I was like, that's what I'm going to be. I'm going to be the number one tennis player in the world. I was playing soccer at the time too, and I was a better soccer player. And then when I was 13, I went for the Queensland trials for soccer, and I should have made the team. And so, when you get in those moments where, the coach of the team, he chose 8 players from his region. There were 16 players for the Queensland team, and I was number 17th. So I missed out by one spot, and I made a choice right there and then. I'm going to play tennis because I'm in control of the outcome. And then yeah, so I decided to focus on tennis. I made the Australian schoolboys team. Was number 3 in Australia in schoolboys, and then a couple of things happened. So after I finished high school, I got a scholarship to America, and I had a choice. I could either go to America and go to college and follow that process, or I could go and just go and give it a shot for tennis. And my dad said to me, at that time, this is back in '97, the percentage of coming out of college and becoming a professional tennis player was very low.
Mm,
So I said to myself, if I don't give it a shot, I'll never know. So I threw it all in. My parents gave me 2 years of my college degree to go and give it a shot. And long story short, Jace, I played on the circuit for 3 years. Didn't make any money out of tennis. Traveled to 27 countries. Lived off credit cards. But my claim to fame was I played an exhibition match with Pat Cash, and beat him on the 27th of the second, 99. And
Retired
2 weeks later, he officially retired in tennis. So I put Pat Cash into retirement. So that was my claim to fame.
I love that so much, dude. Let's tuck into a little bit around kind of purpose first. We all kind of get told that you need to find your purpose, and I
Yep.
think that actually makes people a little bit more anxious often because they're not really sure what that means.
Yep.
When I hear people saying, follow your purpose, nearly everyone almost thinks about doing something for other people. So can you give us an example of maybe some purposes and what it actually means to have a purpose?
Yeah, that's a great question, Jace, and it is so important, I guess. And you're right. I think when you ask people that question, some people just get really sort of a bit like, oh well, and they, I guess what happened to me in my life, I was 14 years old, and my dad took me to a seminar in Brisbane, and Joe Girard was the speaker,
Mm.
and he was the world's greatest car salesman. And he came out on stage. He was 72 years old. He sold a motor vehicle every day for 3 years. He was in the Guinness Book of Records for selling a motor vehicle. And he came out on stage and he told something that sat with me straight away. He said, the average person works 90,000 hours in their lifetime. And he said, make sure whatever you do, you love what you do. You're on purpose. And Jay sat with me ever since I was a 14-year-old. And I made a conscious effort that I said that whatever I'm going to do in my life, I'm going to make sure it's a purpose-driven decision. Now, I'm not saying that every decision I've made has been on purpose, but pretty much 95% has. And, I think from my career point of view, my relationships, and my vision on what I want to be as an individual has always been purpose driven from internally. And I guess that journey has sort of helped me become where I am today, and the relationship I have and the communication I have with, the vision of what I want to portray myself as, and also the people I want to hang around with. I want to hang around purpose-driven people, and I think most people on today's podcast, are very purpose-driven, led through you, and I think that's a really clear example of being unique and purpose-driven, which gives great results.
Okay, so in this context, maybe we're misunderstanding the kind of usage of purpose. So I think the mistake for a lot of people is this: we say I can't. I'm struggling to be motivated to do what I want to do to get to the next level because I don't have a
Yep.
greater reason, like I don't have a purpose. But you're saying that actually, even before you worry about like some grand like achievement in the world that's like really esoteric and deep, actually just be intentional about what you do and make a
Yep.
conscious choice as opposed to entering like a hypnotic rhythm where every day is like the last and you just kind of float through life.
100%. I think one of the sad things is that people go through life and they get to the end of the life. And what I've seen, and unfortunately, I had my grandmother who just passed away last week, but she lived a very purposeful life. I think one of the things is that you're right. You don't actually have to overcomplicate it, and I think that's what happens to people. They think that they've got to find this genie in a bottle, and it's got to be giving them all the answers. That's not the answer of a purpose driven life. I think you know the moment you actually start to take pressure off yourself and just do the little things that start to make that traction, before you know it, that purpose starts to create itself automatically.
Mm.
Um, and every person's purpose is different. So I think it's important not to be focused on other people's purposes, be inspired by other people, but follow your own internal sort of calling. And before you know it, that traction starts to come together. It's almost like, the magic's underneath the rock. You just got to keep chipping away at it. And
I
before you
like
know
that.
it,
So
the
would it
magic
be
starts to come.
would it be fair to say that the moment that we call it a purpose or a why, it almost loses. Sometimes it loses the actual meaning. So you're talking about I want to act intentionally and in alignment with maybe my core values. So it starts by asking ourselves like, what sort of person do we want to be? And
Yeah.
if I show up purposefully in alignment with what I want to actually do in the world, then I'm going to feel like almost like able to propel myself further and further. I think where people perhaps get stuck is when they try to be what other people
Yeah.
want them to be,
Yeah.
meaning that they're living according to other people's core values, and therefore they feel like I'm waking up every day and I'm just going through this same process every day and I'm not feeling like I'm getting ahead. You're not, because you're living according to someone else's rules. And I know that like firsthand and what that's actually like. How does
Yeah.
how does someone kind of go about finding purpose if they don't feel like they've got it? Like what does that process look like?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think there's so many ways to do that, but I think to keep it really simple, it's that internal talk about, if you had an opportunity to achieve anything you want, if you had everything at your disposal, what kind of person do you want to become? What
Mm,
kind of vision do you want for yourself? I think what happens to people is they put all these barriers and these barriers up to themselves in their mind, and a lot of the time, the mind controls the outcome. And you know, if you don't believe it, you won't achieve it. So I've got a tattoo on my arm here, which is dream, believe, achieve. Now, I put that there is because if you dream it and believe it, you can achieve it. And I think the purpose behind really driving yourself as an individual is you have to first believe it. If you don't believe it internally, then nothing will happen,
okay,
you
dude,
know?
I'm going to interrupt you. I'm going to interrupt you and challenge you then. So, um, let's talk about weight loss, for example. Let's talk about changing
Yeah,
our body, right? Let's talk about getting a job that I want to get. The fact is, Tones, I don't believe I can do it. So you
yeah,
telling me that I should believe that's fucking great, but I don't actually.
yeah.
How
Okay,
do
so
I calibrate that? So I start at, let's say I start in Better Body Academy. I've got a 20 kilo weight loss goal. I've failed 17,000 times in the past. Coach
yep,
Tony comes in and tells me, dude, you got to believe in yourself, right? You got to start
yep,
believing in yourself. And you're like, oh, great fucking advice. I don't.
yep.
Then what?
Yeah, so I think it's that whole analogy, Jace, about that internal talk and that internal, that internal voice saying to yourself, "You're not going to achieve it. You're not going to believe it. You're not going to. You're not. You're not good enough."
Hmm.
And we all have that, Jace. That's life. But I
So
think
to
it's that
clarify, you
continuation.
have that. You have that chat yourself. I can't do it.
Yeah,
Okay.
100%. There's times, yeah, for sure. There's
If
times where I have that internal chat to myself, and it questions me, am I on the right journey? Am I doing stuff? But what I continue to do when I have that moment in time, I question it. I go, what do I want here? Do I want to go down this direction, or am I going to keep pushing a little bit further? Am I going to just question that and go, let's just keep pushing a little bit more. Let's get this. Let's just keep going. And I was really inspired by movies, mate. And I sent you a text last night when we were having a bit of difficulty online, and it's the old Yoda saying, perseverance, try not, do or do not. There is no try.
mm,
So it's just that continuation of just keep pushing, keep chipping away, and a lot of the time you'll get through that negative talk, and on that other flip side of it, it's like finishing a marathon. People said to me it was impossible to do 100 kilometers across Egypt, or it was impossible to do an ultra marathon. You know, in the mind, I went through times where it was difficult and I wanted to give up. But when you get to the end of that goal, you look back and it wasn't as hard as you think it was.
that's one of my favorite phrases, the one from Steve Jobs, where he says, looking forward, the dots never connect, but when you look back, it all makes sense. Like
Yeah.
the stuff that you went through all makes sense. Guys, if you're listening in live, I'd love to hear what you're thinking about this, because to me, you just got a golden nugget there. And that is that a very successful guy that has been anointed for his work still has self doubt, still has a story, but it requires a conscious overriding of the story. As I get further into coaching tones, one of the things that I just think is the most plaguing mindset issue, and that is, um, like, I'm a victim, and what's happening is, here the world is happening to me. I'm just telling myself I'm stuck. I'm just having a tough time at the moment. I'm stuck. And what we're actually doing is like digging the hole, right? If you're
Yeah.
if you're in that story, I feel like you have to consciously say, all right, just stop. Like, even if you have to, like, physically, like,
Yeah.
animate it out,
Yep.
stop. This is a fucking story that you're telling yourself. None of this is true,
Yeah.
but it starts with that, like the pattern interruption. With that, do you agree?
Yeah. Oh, 100%, Jace. You know, you've got two choices every day. When you wake up in the morning, we all have the two same choices. And it might be, you might think, oh, okay, that's really simple, Tony, but this is true. It's either a positive thought and a negative thought. And my dad taught me this years ago, and I keep using this and helping people on their journey. Every time you have a negative thought, for example, or an internal thought that's not positive or on purpose, you've got to think of 10 positives to get rid of that one negative. Now, you think about watching the news or watching radio, watching all the negative stuff in the world. You get all this stuff that's coming into your brain. If you're not on that purpose driven sort of focus, it can be consuming.
Mm.
So I think so important that when you're in that sort of moment where you're sort of feeling a bit doubt and you're feeling sort of it's all on top, you're right. Sometimes you just got to go, you know what? I'm going to stop. I'm going to go and I'm going to think, I'm going to go and watch the sunset. I'm going to watch a podcast. I'm going to go and talk to Jace. Before you know it, you surround yourself with positivity and good energy and people that are doing some good things in life.
Mm.
And then before you know it, that thought pattern that you were stuck in, you're not stuck in that as much as you were. And then you can start make better decisions. And when you make better decisions, you get better results.
Dude, I'm going to ask you an off the cuff question before we go on to kind of living more authentically. Is one of the things that I notice just with the majority of people is, when we do start to struggle, rather than like running to a trusted person, running to your coach, opening up, so many people just turn inwards and just shut down, and they
Yeah.
try to effectively try to solve the problem from inside the bottle, right? Like, when you're feeling stuck, do you have because no doubt being stuck is part of, like, going across a hurdle to the next thing. Like, what do
Yeah.
you actually do? Like, dumb the process on how you would go, oh, I'm fucking stuck. I don't see a way out of this. What do you do?
Yeah. So I've got a couple key things that I've been doing for years. So I continue to resonate with reading autobiographies and key things that sort of keep me on purpose. I've got a really tight knit group of mentors that are in my life who I can reach out to, and sometimes I don't speak to them for 6 months, but when I'm in a situation, I can reach out to these key people, and I call them sort of like they're Yodas to me, sort of similar like you, Jace, with what you do with your group of amazing people. There are key people that you can just reach out and keep you on purpose. And I think also too, Jace, I actually go for a run sometimes, and I just clear my mind, and I keep resonating to myself about putting myself in a moment and going, is this reality? Is this moment true reality? And a lot of the time in my experience, a lot of the self-doubt, a lot of the moments that you're in is a combination of factors that sometimes are out of your control. And I call this out a lot in my life. I say this: if you can control the outcome, control it and influence. Some things you're unable to control.
Mm.
The things that you're unable to control, let it go, because those kind of things just can weigh you down a bit. And I think that's what happens to a lot of people. They think they've got to control everything, and you know, more times, out of going forward, it's just the little things that make the difference. And
So,
so,
I'm just going to stop to kind of note point this. Mike, Coach Mike is watching, and Mike, get this into the comments if you can for me, bro. Um, when you're stuck, right, Tony? I just picked up on three. I think I can remember. Number one, right? We're going to be mindful of what we feed ourselves. You mentioned about the news and the pollution of like just consuming garbage. If you're feeling
yep,
stuck and you consume more garbage, you're going to continue to feel stuck. Like turn the news off. There's not. It's
yep,
basically death, 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 death. Sport, weather, feel good story. Like get it off.
yeah,
Like control what you feed yourself. Feed yourself good stuff. Be mindful of what you feed your brain. Second thing is have have people set up that you can turn to. One of the frustrations when you're struggling, guys, is that like turn to your coaches, ask us, and if it's not us, Tony said he's got a collection of mentors that he turns to. Some people in a coaching program, like me, for example, I don't need my coach for 2 months, but
yep,
literally something happens and then I'm like, that's the reason I'm paying for coaching, so that I've got someone to talk to when I buckle, right? The third part was doing something physically to get out of it. Tony said going for a run. For me, it's going to the gym. What physically can you do to get out of your funk? Sitting on the lounge and feeling more of the same doesn't help. Being active changes your physical state. Has anyone ever had a workout? Let me know in the comments here. Has anyone ever had a workout where they did it and they didn't want to do it, but they did it and then they regretted it after it? Like, I'm not even going to get
yep,
cliched. Use physicality to break the pattern. Guys, let's
yep.
move on, turn our attention a little bit to this idea of authenticity. What does that actually mean? If I said, my take on it is kind of living in accordance with your, like, the things that you value, would that be accurate? And how do you know that you're living authentically?
So, so Jace, I think living an authentic life is something that I've chosen, and I wanted to be, because you know there are so many people out there that wear hats and masks, and they try to be somebody else. And it was sort of, I look back when I first met you and the connection that we had, at the beach that day. Our daughters were playing, and you're very authentic, you're very purpose driven, and like attracts like. And so I think for me, some of the amazing things that I've been able to achieve in my life is because I was truly just being myself. And, the people I've actually connected with, my mentor, John McLean, who I had a choice back in '99 to go up, and I saw a documentary on him. He was the first guy to do the Hawaiian Ironman in a wheelchair. I said, wow, I want to meet this guy one day. 3 years later, I had a choice. I was at Noosa. He was in a wheelchair. I could have gone up and just not said anything, but I decided to go up and chat with him. I was with him for 3 minutes. He was attempting to be the first person in the world to swim across the English Channel. Um, I chat with him. He ended up being one of my closest mentors. He came to my wedding. He started a foundation which raises money for kids in wheelchairs. To date, I've been able to raise over 800,000 for his foundation. And and I think the authenticity behind John, yourself, and those people that are really just true to their core beliefs. You want to be around those kind of people, and that's what inspires people and inspires the world to be a better place. And I
So
just think, man,
let's go to like practically. You said something there, which is like attracts like, right?
yeah,
Firstly, if you just feel like you're not surrounded by the right people, right? Just ask yourself, like, and this is a brutal question to ask yourself: would you want to hang around with you?
yeah,
If the answer to that is no, then fucking do something about it, right? So what I
yeah,
mean by that is, if you don't want to hang around with you, the reason for that would be because you don't feel like the person that you are is in alignment. So
Yeah.
you're not going to have any confidence to open up and talk to people because you don't feel like you've got anything to give. But if you're deciding, these are my core values, I'm just going to do that and be me, people are going to magnetize to that who are similar to that, meaning you're going to attract people like that.
Yeah.
Um, the first point. The second point was like I think so many of us are like we'd get on a train or a bus, right? And what would happen would be like someone would sit next to us and we just automatically like turn down. But you're the sort of
Yeah.
guy that would like, hey dude, and you just say that.
Absolutely.
And so like I go to the shopping center, it's like, hey, what's your name? And the people look at you like, is there fucking something wrong with you? Like, why are you talking to me? Right? You've got to be just like willing to just like you said something to me. I can't remember what it was, but hey, brother, how old's your daughter? Or what? It was just something simple, but you made the
Yeah.
effort to connect. People
Connect.
people talk about being lonely and not inspired by their crew. They're sitting there like they're fucking boring. You're boring. No one wants
Yeah.
to talk to you if you're boring. Why are you boring? Because you don't like what you're doing. Why? Because you're not living in alignment with who you want to be, so you feel that you've got nothing to offer.
And Jason, there's a good point here, and that you hit on. We're the most connected species in living time, but we're also the most disconnected. And what most people do is they go on their phones, they're scrolling through feeds, looking at other people's lives. And if you're not doing that to inspire yourself, you're living someone else's life.
Mm.
And so, importantly, if you're surrounding yourself and being authentic and opening up conversations and perfect example, if we didn't actually connect that day, or I didn't come in, we didn't chat, then we would never be right here right now. And so I believe everything happens for a reason. And I'm honored to be here today with you and the team. And I think that's another example of just being yourself, and then like attracts like, and then before you know it, some great things happen. And Steve Jobs, the dots connect up, and you hear you're exactly where you're meant to be.
I just had this weird dialogue come into my mind about what happened when I walked away from you after I'd met you. Claudia was like, my partner was like, who was that? Like, what's going on there? I was like, I just feel really good. I just feel really good. And it's like this awkward feeling, I think, for a lot of men. Men don't know how to process a feeling of love and connection a lot of the time if it's foreign to them, right? And like, if this is going to sound weird, but this is how I can understand it. If you're a heterosexual man, right, and maybe it's the
Yeah,
same for a homosexual man. I can't tell because I'm not. But if you're a heterosexual man, and um, you feel like you've connected with someone, it almost feels a bit like, oh, that's a bit weird. Like I kind of feel some bro love there, and that feels like uncomfortable. And if it feels uncomfortable for you, and you push it away, you've just done the opposite of that was a great opportunity for you to grow and connect. I can't speak as a woman, but I'm guessing there's like this the equivalent as a woman. It's like why didn't I ask that woman for her phone number? Like we had a real commonality. Like why didn't I ask her for a phone number? Why didn't I see if she wants to meet for a coffee again?
yeah.
Um,
And mate, Jason, I had the same feeling as well. I went back and I had my wife and my father-in-law and that, and I just said, oh, I just met this awesome bloke, and yeah, it was this. You're exactly right. If we didn't connect and we didn't get Facebook numbers
yeah.
and details, then that moment in time would have passed. And I think that happens to a lot of people.
Mm,
They have that moment and they feel it, but they don't act on it.
mm,
And unfortunately, sometimes there could have been some great relationships that could have progressed to whatever.
yeah.
And I think that gets back to that intentional thought of just acting on what feels right.
Yeah.
And if we act on it more times out of going forward, positive things happen, good things happen. And I think that's the key to following your purpose, or following just that moment in time. And if it feels good, just act on it, because you never know where it can lead.
Big question. Do you think that any person can change their life? Like, do you really believe that, or are there some like circumstances where you definitely can't?
Look, I'm an absolute ultimate optimist, and I truly believe with the things that I've seen in the world and some of the incredible feats that people said that that person can never walk again, that person can never do that. I'm a believer that it is possible, Jace. Sure, there are definitely some things in life that at this point have said that it's that's never going to happen. So I'll give you an analogy. They said it was impossible. It was impossible to break the 4 minute mile. That was a proven fact, and for years that was the case. In 1956, when Roger Bannister broke the 4 minute mile, the following month 19 people broke it. So, what does that tell you? It means that the glass barrier was possible. So, in some instances, when they say that things are impossible, it just needs one person to believe it is possible. And in some cases, once that gets broken, then, you know, other people start to believe. So, I guess, when you ask me, is anything possible? I believe that. I believe that in my heart that there are things that if that's something that you truly believe that is possible, I'm a believer. Yeah,
One of the things that kind of frustrates me no end is just people thinking that, or not, maybe not even thinking, they consciously don't don't believe this, but subconsciously there's a program running that they're just like, failure is separate to the process of self improvement, and that I shouldn't
yeah,
be failing. My journey should just be like no wobbles. There should be no real difficulty here. It's like, and when it happens, it's like I give up. Like,
yeah.
why do you think people actually give up so quickly on themselves? Like, do you believe there's a reason for that?
I think I think the reason behind people give up on themselves is because they continue to possibly live in someone else's dream. So if it's not internally truly for them, then if they're not convinced enough that this is what they really want, then that's where when they get the first hurdle, they think, oh, that's right, I'm never going to make it. I think I resonated back to my challenges that I did physically with my ultra marathons and Ironman. I went through lots of processes in those moments of time where it was very tough mentally, but I kept pushing forward. And it's about having those roadblocks that make you become a better person.
Mm.
And when you start to challenge yourself that you're going to have tough days, you're going to have challenges, you're going to have potholes, you're going to have moments where people are saying to you, give up, you're not going to make it. But if you're continuing to say to yourself, I'm here, I'm going to stand up today, I'm going to push forward, I'm going to, become the person I want to become. A lot of the times you get much further than most people, and the reality is, Jace, when you talk to successful people and you talk to people that have done amazing feats, a lot of the analogy and the challenges are very similar. But the people that are successful and the people that stand up on that sort of pedestal, a lot of the times they're just normal people that just push through, believe that they wanted to do something great, and 9 times out of 10 stayed on focus, had a dream, and good things came in their life.
Love it. I've got two questions to kind of wrap this one up. Has working with disabled people predominantly, has that sort of shaped your belief system in any way? I remember I asked you the question in a different format, and I almost feel like the answer that came back from you was, no, they're very able, Jace. They're very, very fucking capable. But
Yep.
has it shaped kind of your frame in any way?
Yeah, 100%. So I've been inspired, and obviously my journey to date has been very focused around inspiring and empowering people,
Mm.
changing the language around the word disability, and looking at it from an able circumstance. You know, everyone wants a passion, everyone wants a purpose. The people that I work with on a daily basis are some of the most incredible people that come to work, that get challenged, that get discriminated. And I think for me, that inspires me to do what I do to inspire them to continue to believe in them, to go, you know what? you can become a great individual. I think there's such a stigma out there about the word disability.
Mm,
And what's inspired me on my journey is that the individual that has a circumstance that is classified as disabled
mm,
is just a person.
mm,
They just want to have a purpose. They want to get out of bed in the morning. They want to come to work and make a contribution. They want to be a good person. And so they continue to inspire me to go, you know what, we can do better in this place to create a better universe, to create, I guess, break down the word of disability and stigma
mm.
and understand that we're all individuals just wanting to make a difference and, and to have a purposeful life.
Dude, so sexy. I want to ask you a final question now. If you would like to, we've got 20 people watching live. If you would like to ask Tones any questions after the podcast, just stick around, get them into the comments, pop them in there now, and we can ask them. The final question I want to ask you, dude, is like what you talk about purpose for a lot of people. What is your purpose? Like, give us a definition, and not a definition. Give us a worked example of maybe what your purpose is and how you've arrived at that. And do you think that that will remain your purpose for your rest of days?
Yeah, so my purpose, and I made this choice for many, many years, is to be an inspiration and a leader in regards to breaking the word of disability and inspiring a cohort of incredible people to become better. So I'm purposely driven to do that on a daily basis. And I guess there's a linkage from that drives me to not only in the sector of disabilities, but into people as well.
Mm,
So I resonate going back to when I met Joe Girard and about being on stage and making sure that, while you're here on this earth, making sure that you can actually, inspire people to become better. So that was a decision that I made many years ago, and something that I continue to do on the journey. And similar like you, Jace, I feel purposely driven to get out of bed in the morning to make a difference. And I think when you can make a difference in other people's lives, that can actually keep you fulfilled to keep going to make a difference and be proud of who you are. And at the end of the day, when you make, it's almost like the old Zig Ziglar saying, help more people get what they want, and you'll get what you want.
ugh.
And and that's what I continue to do.
Claire says, "Man, this hits so good, Claire." I think if we look at our our client group, there's a lot of like all cohorts, a lot of trauma and a lot of past experiences which carry with it a lot of baggage. I really do hope that in a way, hearing from someone external to our academy helps you to understand that, like, number one, we're all going through shit. Like,
Yeah.
that is life, and it's as long as you're like attempting to kind of just push away the shit and think that I shouldn't be feeling like this, I shouldn't be experiencing this, you're always going to be in a level of resistance, right? Some of it you've just got to take with you and then just get up again. And the beauty of it is, until the day you die, you have a choice to get up tomorrow. That's fucking cliche as, but it's the truth. Like, you can have the worst day in the, like, my yesterday was just dog shit, right? And get up today, have a choice, and guess what? I'll get up a little bit earlier than normal, because then it gives me a chance to make up for yesterday. That's like a winning attitude. And if you're not around these types of people to help pick you up, you're really going to struggle. Guys, we're going to wrap the podcast episode there and then enter some Q&A. Great question here, Ems. So if you want to ask some questions, guys, get in the comments. We're going to finish it there. Tones, thanks for coming on the episode. It's been an absolute privilege and pleasure, my brother.
Likewise, brother. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we might do a follow-up in 6 months' time or something and kind of recalibrate. So, guys, thanks very much for coming in, Tones. Thanks for coming in live. This has been the Better Body Academy podcast, the podcast that you come to when you're sick of the dumb diets and unsustainable workout programs. And I'll see you in the next episode. Good stuff. Ash says, what a freaking great podcast. Yeah, you know what, Ash? Like, my goal, or one of the goals of the podcast, is as we approach kind of 200 episodes and get beyond, is how cool would it be to actually be able to reach out to people that are like, doing great things and hear from them and, see what we can turn up Tone, stick around. Sam
Yeah.
says, I've taken so much from this. I have a choice. You know, the hardest part, Sammy, is to remember that. How do you, let's just get informal now, Tones. Um, One of the things that I think about is I think awareness, having awareness in your life about like being able to look at your life in third person, almost
Yeah.
as a non-judgmental viewer, and go, why am I doing that? Like what that curiosity really helps you to ask yourself like to break patterns. Um,
Yes.
the hardest thing about awareness is remembering to be aware. Now, I'm asking that because of the comment displayed. I don't know if you can see the comments displayed, but I've taken so much from this. I have a choice. How do you keep it in your mind that you have a choice? Like, how do you remember to have a choice? How do you prompt yourself? Is it like things around your house? Is it notes journaling? Like, how do you
Yeah.
practically?
Yeah. So great question. So we've got my wife and I. We put affirmations around the house. So just reminders of keeping on point. My dad used to write on the mirror as well, and little motivation quotes that keep us going. So every time you're in front of the mirror, you can see it. So they're the kind of things, and also that internal sort of almost like blueprint that I've I've put in my mind, and it's just that continuation of you know continue saying to myself on a daily basis, am I on point? Am I doing what I want to do? Am I inspiring? Am I being the best person that I can be? And it's just that continuation of going, this is a journey, life's a journey. And, we've got two choices. We get out of bed in the morning and we go, you know what, today I'm going to make good choices. I'm going to make the best out of today. And I think,
So how do we?
you
But
know,
dude, like, I'm going to grill you on this.
yeah.
How do we remember to do that though?
It's just that it's that choice. It's like you said this morning that you had a shit day yesterday, and you said I'm going to get out of bed. I'm just going to get up a bit earlier. I'm going to do something a little bit different, and then I'm going to actually come and I'm going to give my best version. And so it's that continuation of reminding ourselves that choice. Looking at the affirmations, going to look at a podcast, going to remind myself, am I on purpose driven here? Am I thinking because we get all consumed by all the stuff that we can't control.
Yeah.
And like I said to you, bring it back to going, well, what can I control today? And the only thing we can control is our thoughts. And so our thoughts make action. And so if that internal dialogue is negative and consuming by other people's thoughts, a lot of the time you're not going to get the outcomes you want.
Mm,
So I think it just continuing to say to yourself, come on, let's keep moving forward. Let's be the best. I say this to myself. I just want to be a better version than I was last week or yesterday. If I'm 1% better, then I'm going forward.
mm,
I'm not going to get it right all the time, but if I can just be 1% better than I was yesterday, then, I'm on the right track.
mm,
And you don't have to achieve 1,000% improvement, but if you can just be 1% better,
mm.
then, then I think, you're becoming a better version of yourself.
Love it. Hey, guys, there's still 10 or 11 people watching. So, um, approach this question like M has here. She's like thinking about the implementation in your life, right? So ask a question. Like, this is an example. This is a great example. If you're not asking the question, our question, why? Is that because you might be busy? Okay, that could be a thing. So you're kind of listening with one ear, and that's cool. Or is it that literally you've conditioned yourself to not ask uncomfortable stuff? This is a chance to ask it, guys. I'm going to start sticking around after podcasts like this so that you can ask questions. This question from M is great. Tony, what would you say to people that can't live their whole life work filling their purpose? How would you suggest they implement that view of living their purpose when they don't get that from their work generally? In other words, yeah, so
Yeah.
there's a transition. This is a great question. So, got to work to pay the bills. So for
Yeah.
example, actually, I won't corrupt it. Yeah, I'll let you answer it.
Jace, this is this is a great question, and thank you for asking it. And it's going to be a simple answer, and people might get a little bit people might get a little bit off put by this answer. But if you don't love or you don't enjoy what you're doing, change it. Just change it. Now I know that we've got to pay bills, we've got to make decisions that are going to help our life in regards to paying mortgages and so forth. But you know what? Like, I made a choice years ago that everything that I do intentionally in my roles, in my decisions, has to be driven by purpose internally. I've done roles that don't get me wrong, there have been some roles where I've had to do it because that was that moment in time. But pretty much 95% of my roles that I've done in my career have been purpose driven. And I think, let's put it this way. Imagine going to work, and I heard this statistic, and I know this is happening in Australia. In America, 80%, 82% of people go to work hating what they do. I'm sure that's the same in Australia. Imagine going to work hating what you do, coming home, not being purpose driven, getting to the end of your life and going, shit, what have I done? Like, it's sad for a lot of people. I'm not saying that every circumstance, I guess
Fuck,
it's
dude,
that
you just
choice.
like knocked me on my ass then, because
Yeah.
I think that when that question is like, again, it's the hypnotic rhythm. We kind of go, yeah, you're right, Tones, but we never actually think about that.
Yeah.
We're 70 years old, we're 80 years old, and we just have this moment where we're sitting on the fucking rocking chair and we're just like,
Is that it? Like, if I think, and you're right. I resonated last week when I was watching my grandmother pass away from a terrible disease, Alzheimer's disease. And it was incredible, to be at the funeral and hear her whole life story. And she was just such an incredible lady who did some incredible things. And I think, at my deathbed, I'd like to think that there's going to be some cool things that people might be able to say. And I think you're right, Jace. We only got one life. There's no dress rehearsal. Life is it. There's no second chance. And so let's make that chance the best chance. If you hate what you do, just fucking change it. Just do it, because at the end of the day, you know, your time could be up next week. If you're in something that you hate, I just don't know. I just believe that we have one choice,
well,
and
look,
one life.
this question a thought that plagued me because I had a home loan, and like I was literally just thinking to myself, I need the security.
Yeah,
how am I going to pay my fucking home loan? So,
yeah,
so my approach, and I'm not saying it's the right approach, just to be practical, my approach was I don't want to do what I'm doing for more than another year or two. So,
yeah.
so I'm security orientated person. Maybe you're not, Tones. Maybe you're kind of very, you can just throw yourself. I'm not, but
Oh
to
no,
me,
no, I definitely got mortgage payments made, and I've got to make decisions that are, yeah, I've got the same situation. I think with most people that are online for sure. But I think you're right. Like, I think if you're in a situation, I'm not saying that if you hate your job, just go and go in today and say see you later. Like, you've got responsibilities. But imagine this. Imagine knowing that you hate your job and knowing that you're forcing yourself because you just have to do something to pay a mortgage. You will not achieve fulfillment in yourself, because what's going to happen? You're doing it for another reason. You're not doing it for yourself. And if you don't do it for yourself, in the end, it's not worth it. So you look at people over in Africa who live in the slums, but they're the happiest people in the world. I'm not saying to go and live that life, but what I'm saying is it comes back to that choice of, you know, if we don't love what we do, change it, because you can be in a situation where you love and still have the situation where you can, pay your mortgage, and it's a better life, Jace. And that's from my experience.
so my kind of the way I went about this, was that I made a decision that I'm not going to do this for more than another year or two. And so, what I am going to do, what can I control? I'm going to
Yeah.
control starting a side hustle, so to speak. I worked for free for a long period of time doing the thing that I'm passionate about. Interesting, Nick has asked a comment. There's the same thing with Nick, same thing with Amy Brown, taking photos of people because they're passionate about photography. They feel alive when they're taking photos. Like, and talk about the individual hour. I fucking hate taking photos. Like, I hate when my missus asks me to take some photos of her doing shit for her content. I hate it. I loathe it. But other people love that, right? And so if you love that, that's probably a goal. That's probably a green flag drawing your attention to, like, you should probably spend more time doing this thing that you like. And then if you,
Yeah.
while you go to work, and you plow what you have to do to pay the mortgage, have an exit plan, right? Have a plan that allows you to go, okay, cool, but I am going to
Yeah.
dedicate 2 hours a night when the kids go to bed, or I'm going to get up early and I'm going to do these things because I want to build something for myself that I love doing. That's the way I went about it. And then what actually happened was the best thing in the world. I got essentially sacked because the company I worked for collapsed. Would I have left? Fuck, I don't. I would have eventually. How long? How much longer? I don't know. But I
Yeah.
tell you what, the thought of going back to do that again, like, oh my gosh, like it just feels like a different me. Like it's just a different person. So,
Yeah.
dude, let's get to next question. Do you feel big goals are easier if they're broken down into kind of more smaller parts, like building confidence through achievement on the way? So that's a great question.
Yeah. That's a brilliant question. Thank you for asking. And 100% that's on point. You know, people say, some of the crazy things that I've done in my from the physical point of view with my Ironman trainer, wanted to run across the Egyptian desert. You know, physically and mentally, running for 15 hours, people say, why do you do it? I was purpose driven because I did it for, someone else to raise some money to get something for them. So, but for me, in order to achieve that goal, I had to have little goals along the journey to break it down. And it's almost like, taking little bites off the elephant. At the end of the day, you know, any successful leader, any successful person, anyone that's achieved anything incredible in life, I think has to have the little goals to achieve the big goal. It's never just going, I'm going to be number one in the world for tennis and that's it. And I don't have any challenges and I'll achieve it. I've heard Roger Federer talk about all the challenges he had in his life, to become one of the greatest, if not the greatest tennis player in the world. You know, I was watching a documentary on Bolt. People just thought that he was the greatest runner that's ever lived, and it was so easy. But people didn't realize he trained every day. He went through failures. He didn't achieve at Olympics to become the greatest Olympian ever. So I think the reality of it is that to achieve anything big, you have to start off small. You have to start off the little steps, and it's that journey of taking the steps. And I think myself, if I didn't think about just stepping one step forward, then sometimes lots of people think that the goal's too hard and they
Mm,
give up.
mm.
So, I totally believe that, if you have something really big, break it down, and 99.9% of the time, when you achieve it or when you're on the journey, it's not as hard as you think it is.
Dude, I'm going to ask you one more question, more from probably a personal. Well, I'm going to tell you something, and then I'm
Yep.
interested in your feedback on it, and then we'll finish this up. So, um, one thing I noticed that I'm doing much less of personally is showing my life, as in like the goodness of my life. Um, and I picked up on this the other day when I was just playing with my kids in the pool here, and here is the thought process. Okay, um, I don't want to make it look like that I'm showcasing how happy I genuinely am, because I
Yeah.
don't want my clients to think that I'm big noting the place that I'm staying in or the beach that I'm sitting on or the life, because I don't want to cause some level of like comparison here. When I first started coaching, like if we were staying in a really nice fucking place, I'd go live and like have it in the background, guys, check this shit out. And it really does two things. The people that are driven on or they're on purpose, it like inspires, oh fuck yeah, where's that? That's so sick, so happy for you, Jace, you're living your purpose. But then the other people who are like, fuck this guy, like they're kind of like, you know, and I remember what that's like because I used to watch people like one of my mentors does now and drives around in a Lamborghini at 30 years old. And I remember like kind of looking at people like this, I said people like that, and being like, fuck this guy,
Yeah.
right? He probably sells drugs, I
Yeah.
rationalize shit like that. Like, what are your thoughts on like that kind of line between modesty and like inspiring people in your crowd?
And that's a
And,
great
and,
question,
and sorry,
Jason.
sorry, I asked that because, and I don't mean to embarrass you. I asked that because I think your humility at the front probably covers a very privileged, like not privilege is the wrong word, but like you've amounted to a lot of personal kind of success, So that's why I'm asking it.
Yeah, no, thanks, mate. I you hit a point there because I think what happens, people automatically look at someone in a Ferrari or look at someone in a Lamborghini and think automatically, oh, they're lucky, they won the lotto, they sell drugs, like you said, or whatever, And to me, my my philosophy is let's go and connect with that person. Let's go and have a conversation. Let's find out how they achieved it. Let's go and find out, why is their life successful? What drives them? What makes them a better person? When I look at the stuff that you do, you've inspired me straight up when I first connected with you, and continue to. And so my philosophy is when I do what I do, if it resonates with me and if I'm doing it to inspire, to just put some good shit out there in the world to go, you know what? There's enough negative crap out there. If
Mm,
I can inspire one person to become a better person today, voila. And so that's my mindset. I think to myself, am I being in the moment? Am I enjoying this? And I see, the other day when you put the picture up about the monkeys on the window and stuff like that, it's just, I think, being truly authentic to yourself and, like attracts like, Jace. And you know what? The other philosophy, haters will be
you
fucking
push
haters,
away the
and so
yeah, yeah.
just, you know, no matter what you do, and I've had this in my life, I've had people try and knock me down off my pedestal, saying that I'm only doing it for other people. I'm discriminating, da da da. It's all my ego.
You
You know what?
discriminated against the able-bodied people.
Yeah, exactly. But at the end of the day, I look myself in the mirror and I know who I am. I know why I'm doing it. And, I know that I'm going to inspire some people along the journey. The people that get inspired, I know I'm making a difference. The people that aren't inspired, well, that's their choice.
I love that. Wow. And Sammy's rounded out this chat, I think, in the best way possible. This is a great mindset. Um, yeah, Carly, this is my sister says that's so powerful. I love that because that gives it something practical, isn't It's like when you see the person that you naturally feel like a bit, like it's a bit like, what's the word? Like intimidating.
You feel, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So make the first thing you do to go and approach that person and ask them what they do and how the hell that they. Could you give me one? Could you give me like
one tip,
I would fucking love if like let's just say I was in a gym or I was in in a doing a coaching thing that someone saw me in a cafe and they were like, what do you do? I do this. Give me one tip. I'd love to do that. Like, give me one tip that,
yeah.
that I can do. And of course, it's not that that one tip's going to solve everything. It's that you've got an inroad to potentially connecting. And I think that's so good.
Mate, and that's exactly right. Like it's all about connections and being authentic on purpose, you know. And I think, you know, I look back at our situation. If, you know, for whatever reason our paths passed each other that day, and, you know, I'm a believer that, you know, there are certain people that come in your life for a reason, and, you know, I feel privileged to meet you, man. And, you know, I think, you know, the journey's just starting to, you know, we've got lots of things to move forward with.
Sick. I love it. All right, guys. Well, to everyone that's stuck around and chatted with us, I've noticed something on a Friday just around our momentum in our community. Friday mornings are really powerful, and I think people clearly make a decision after about 10 o'clock on a Friday that the weekend is starting now. So you know, I just, like, one of the things I say is I hope this chat powers you through your Friday, because, like, turning off at 10 o'clock and then losing the entirety of a day that you could be, like, put that towards your passion, your purpose, put that towards your side hustle,
Yeah,
rather than just burying it and going to the pub. I know you're not going to the pub, but you get the point. They're
yeah.
unproductive hours. So hopefully this has helped. Dude, thanks so much for coming on.
Have a great day, Jace. Love you, mate.
Mate, stick around if you can. Just going to have a quick chat. And I'll see you guys in the next episode.